People say there is a first time for everything. A first kiss, your first car, the unrequited first love. However, what does this mean in the grand scope of things? Are firsts more monumental because they are the first, or do we get better with practice? Do we remember our firsts as more important than they actually were, holding on to that magical moment as a mark of our past and future selves? Do our firsts outshine what comes next? On A First Time for Everything, we will explore with our guests their firsts and how those impacted the seconds, thirds, and even countless times after. Is the first the best or merely the beginning? Or worse, was the first the last because it was so bad? We will dig into the recesses of our memories and consider whether or not a first was the start of something amazing or something we'd rather not remember. Come along with me, Juliet Rose, as I put our guests in the hot seat to analyze their firsts and how they defined who they became. I promise you're in for a fun, although maybe bumpy ride. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A First Time for Everything. This is our final episode of the year, so we appreciate everybody tuning in this year and giving us a thumbs up and keeping us going. We've had some really great guests and great conversations. So if you've missed any of the shows, please do check them out on YouTube so you can see, some of the wonderful guests that I've interviewed this year. As a reminder, send a star to let us know how we're doing. Here at Gondy Now, every time you contribute, you can enter it into our season-ending gift card package. And there's a lot of great stuff in there. I won't make the whole list, but yeah, definitely do that because there's some wonderful things you can get there. Tonight, we are talking to Kim. Kim, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you write, a little bit about yourself, and where people can find you.
Well, thank you, first off, for having me on the show tonight. I've been looking forward to this chat. And my name is Kim Lengling. I am from Northwest Pennsylvania. I write typically nonfiction. I've been writing since about 2014-ish. And let's see here. Yeah, I wrote nonfiction. I coordinate anthologies, which is what's on the screen right now is one of my first anthologies. And I've done another one since then. And I've had 2 books published since that book that's up on the screen. So doing a little bit of everything, but a lot of it. I also have a podcast called Let Fear Bounce. And if you want to find out more about me and what's going on and what I'm working on, you can get onto my website, which is kimlenglingauthor.com. And everything's on there, including my office manager that happens to be my dog, Dexter.
Yeah, I was actually reading up a little bit on you before the show, so I could see that. And I saw that office manager Dexter. I was like, oh, it's your rescue dog. So tell us a little bit about Dexter.
Dexter, yeah, I got him 2019. And I had 6 months prior to that, I had said goodbye to my soul dog. His name was Digger, and I had him for 14 years. And 6 months later, the house was just too quiet. I couldn't do it anymore. And it wasn't healthy for me for it to be that quiet. So got Dexter as a very scared, sickly, anxious dog. There was no background on him. They found him as a stray. So it took a while. There's about 3 months total before he settled in and felt comfortable and didn't seem so anxious and fearful. And so I went by the 3-3-3 rule, which is 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months.
Yeah.
And so after all of that, decompress, and I start training right away and gentle, and now, years later, he has settled in quite nicely. His personality began to shine at like month 4, and he's full of it, as my mom always said. You are just full of it. So he's full of it. He's a joy to have, and he's made himself right at home, and he keeps me on track. Hence the reason I gave him the title of my office manager.
Nice. And what type of dog is he?
He is a Belgian Malinois Mastiff mix.
Oh, he's a big boy.
Kind of big. He's not as big as you would think. He's only about 80 pounds. So
okay, yeah.
Not too big. He seems small to my other dog, Digger. My other dog, Digger, he was 105 pounds and very tall, very long, lean, big dog. And people look at Dexter and like, oh, he's a pretty good sized dog. I'm like, oh, he seems little to me.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, did you always know that you wanted to be a writer, or was this something that kind of came later in life?
I never thought about it. It was not anything that I had thought about. As a teenager, I think most have written those angsty poems, when
Yes.
your heart's broken. You write these angsty poems, but you never really do anything with them. So I never, I did the same thing. I wrote angsty poems, but I didn't do anything with them. I didn't save them or anything like that. But it was years later. I was in my 30s, I believe, or even early 40s, that I was from a networking group, from a women's networking group. And one of the women approached me and said, "Hey, I'm coordinating an anthology called Inspire. And I heard that you have a great story. Is that something you'd consider sharing?" And I said, "What story are you talking about?" And she shared what someone else had shared with her. And I said, "Oh, that's not anything I want to write about. That's not anything I want to share with the world," because it was very, very personal and hard. And I'd never shared it on a scale like that. And she kept on me in a gentle way for quite a while and said, "Hey, really want your story to be a part of this anthology. Um, let's just give it a try." So I did write it. I'd never written before. So, they do they go through the editing process. And that was, you had to thicken up your skin for that because I'd never been through any of this process before. But also that due to the story being so personal, it was hard. It was actually very hard to do and a hard process. And she understood that. And we had a lot of long conversations about it because I kept saying, "I can't do this. No, we're not doing it. Don't include me." But in the end, we did. And I did my own little mini book tour in my small rural area that I live in and shared my story because I felt very strongly, okay, maybe I am supposed to share this. And so I spoke to a lot of women's groups and a lot of church groups. And the feedback that I got from those women was amazing and incredibly humbling. And so I thought, okay, maybe I am supposed to do this writing thing, and that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, it's so interesting because normally, like when I interview people, obviously the majority of people knew from a very young age that they wanted to be a writer. That was, their drive, and maybe they didn't even start till later in life. Like quite often, I talk to people who didn't even start writing, even though they knew at a young age. They didn't even start writing until they were, in their 40s or 50s, even 60s. So it's really interesting that this wasn't something you wanted to do. It wasn't something you were interested in. You actually resisted it.
And there's another story, and I should have shared this one first. Earlier than that, as I'm thinking about earlier than that, I was asked to give I'm a veteran, and so I was asked to give a speech at a large veteran event. This is years before I wrote in that book, and I had never written a speech. I'd never spoken publicly at a large event. And to me, large, there was about 800 people there. So to me, that was a large event.
It's pretty large, yeah.
It was a lot of people. And, television cameras and stuff like that. And I was asked to share, and I shared a story about my step-grandfather, who was the last surviving World War I veteran in my area. So I shared his story of his service and how he was the last one. And I took weeks to write this because it was, I wanted to make sure I got it right, and set the tone right. And I was sharing this with veterans, and it was a pretty big deal. And so I gave the speech. I was very nervous, this first 30 seconds. And then I just fell into the story and just shared it because I knew it by heart of weeks and weeks and weeks of writing and editing and sharing it with other people to help me, tweak things. And when I got done, it was total silence with all these people. And I thought, oh, I blew it. I absolutely blew it. And then one person starts clapping and then another, that kind.
Yeah.
And then the place just erupted. And when I lifted up my head, because I had put my head down, I'm like, oh gosh. And I looked up and there were people standing there crying. They're just crying. And afterwards, a local editor from the local newspaper approached me and said, "Hey, Kim, that was, a beautiful speech. Would you ever consider writing a monthly article on veterans or something like that for the newspaper? And I said, oh, thank you so much. That's, very, very nice, but I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. And he said, well, who wrote your speech? And I said, well, I did. And he goes, you are a writer. And I did write that monthly column for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was always veteran related. And most of it morphed over the years into interviews. So I would find these veterans, or another veteran that I interviewed would say, hey, you might want to talk to this guy, or you might want to talk to this lady. She was a whack in World War II, and she's got an amazing story. So 14 years and dozens of veteran stories later, that I think shaped a lot of how I write, because I'm very empathetic. And it might be why I also prefer nonfiction, because I want people to feel something when they read it. I want them, if I was sitting there afterwards, now when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm talking to them, but, and getting all the information and being very empathetic and really listening hard and connecting with them. Some of those stories, it was so hard, especially when I was like interviewing former prisoners of war. Yeah. Very, very hard. There was one that I didn't sleep for 3 nights after I talked to him. And it was the first time he had ever shared his story of being a prisoner of war during World War II.
Wow.
And he said, I want to do it before I die. He never even shared it with his wife, his kids, nothing. He was like 89 years old. And he said, and I said, well, why do you feel comfortable talking to me? And he goes, because you don't know me and I don't know you.
That's a good point.
I said, yeah, I go, that makes a lot of sense. I'm outside your bubble.
Right.
I go, there will be no judgment from me. I'm here to just listen and share your story the best that I am able to. And that was one of the most memorable and emotional interviews I did over those 14 years. He's since passed.
Right.
But wow. And I shared it I wrote it out and sent it to him in the mail to read. Yeah. And then he mailed it back to me with the markups.
Yeah.
I will not submit this to publish until you okay it.
Right.
Because it was so personal. And I had to edit a lot because I couldn't share. Well, I could have, but I don't think that the newspaper would have wanted me to share some of what he shared with me. Pretty graphic. Oh. But war is not pretty, nor is it romantic in any way.
Yeah.
Even though the movies like to portray it that way sometimes.
They do.
And so he was very honest and very detailed with his story. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights afterwards. It was, wow. And because I take it on, and I'm thinking, and I kept saying, and I'm a person of faith. So I was praying that I would give it his story justice, and that he would feel comfortable enough to share it with me. And when I, put it out there, and I realized, okay, he's never shared this. So I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Big deal. You know what? That night might have been the best night's sleep he's had in decades.
Yeah.
So once that little thought came into my head, I was like, okay, thank you. Yes, you're right. I can have a few sleepless nights to get that man to have a more peaceful rest to end out his journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you write primarily nonfiction, or you write only nonfiction, correct?
Yes, that's what I have published. I have written a fiction book. It's not published. It's not even edited yet. It's a horrible first draft. And it needs a lot of work because I've never written fiction before. And it's a whole nother ball game.
It is.
So it's a big learning curve for me. And so I want to enjoy the process and the learning part of it. So that's like, first time doing that and first time actually writing conversations. I have those conversations with the characters. They're in my head all the time.
Right.
But when you go to write them out, I'm going, what point of view do I use? How do I use point of view? So all these things that I don't know, it's like, I'm not even really sure what a story arc is. I mean, so when I first started, because I write nonfiction, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. But I'm having a lot of fun learning and talking to people like in writing groups or other authors, and they're just helping. They're like, did you try this, or are you writing it this way, or or why
Yeah.
did you write it this way? So I'm learning a lot just by question and answer, and just with people being nice enough to take some time and talk with me about what it is I'm doing. So that's been a fun process, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, because the characters are there. They're still hanging out.
Yeah.
They've been there for years. And I finally said, okay, got to do it. And so I sat down for 3 weeks every day and wrote for hours and hours. It just like blah.
Yeah.
It's like a word vomit, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Yep.
And then I was done. I was done with it. I did nothing else for 3 weeks, and I was exhausted, mentally exhausted. And I'm like, okay. And then quiet down now, you guys, because I'm tired.
Yeah.
But they came back and they're like, hey, we're doing this now. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So I'm the same. I started writing nonfiction. I was a journalist and I wrote nonfiction, and then I switched to fiction. And it's definitely very different, like what you're writing, how you write it, really every element. Did you find it easier to write fiction, or do you find it easier to write nonfiction?
I find fiction incredibly hard to write.
Nonfiction
to me just comes natural. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of people think that I've talked to, at least the people I've had on my show, because the majority of them are authors, they say that they think that nonfiction is harder.
Huh.
And I'm going, really? But it's what we know.
Right. Yeah.
And I know the more of fiction I do, the easier it will become, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so, because people were like, well, why don't you do short stories? Because I have a ton of short stories, a ton of them. And they're like, well, why don't you do short fiction stories? And I said, well, I have a whole bunch. And they're like, well, do something with them. I'm like, it's so, I don't know. I talk myself out of it and go right back to nonfiction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I write, I do write fiction. Now I'll occasionally write something nonfiction. But I still find when I write fiction, I very much embed a lot of nonfiction into it. I do a lot of research. I take a lot of real life situations. Do you find that when you wrote your fiction that you were still kind of leaning towards that mindset of nonfiction, but then making it fiction?
How I did it. And
I'm curious. Yeah.
I don't even know if is there a way you're supposed to write fiction? I don't know. I just sat down and started writing because I had these conversations in my head. And so what I did first was I wrote out little bios for each of my characters. Like this one, this is what she looks like. This is what she typically wears. This is how old she is. This is where she works. This is her personality. This is who she likes. This is the name of her dog. So I did that. And then I used AI to create what they looked like. And I printed them all off. And so then I had them like on my wall. So when I was writing, I would look up and I'm like, okay, Josh has a lot to say right now. He's really getting annoying. But I would be able to see his face and have his bio in front of like, oh, okay, yep, that's how he's going to react. And just, that's how I did it. I don't know. Is that what other people do? I don't know, but that's how I did it.
Having interviewed people now for 3 seasons, I could say everybody does it differently. I think as long as you're getting words onto a page, you're doing it right. Because, for me, I am very much a pantser. I don't.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Even if I plan a character, they often tell me somewhere along the way that I was wrong and that this is how they're supposed to be. And I have to go and change things. So, so I think everybody's different. I just interviewed somebody a couple weeks ago and they were such a plotter. I mean, they would plot out everything, every detail, they almost would write a book before they wrote a book of details. And I thought, wow, I would lose my mind if I had to do that.
I'm not a plotter per se, but I did want to know, I wanted to clarify who my folks were.
Yeah.
Instead of the chitter chatter all the time. Because it's kind of like, you've got humans, you've got dogs and squirrels and such. and then wood sprites. So a little bit of mystical stuff happening in there. And I wanted to, for me, I need to visually see them. That's why because I was like, I can't afford an illustrator. I'd love to be able to, but I couldn't. So I used AI and just put in, this is what this wood sprite I'm thinking is look like. And I was amazed at what it came up with. But it's not anything I'm going to use. It's just for me.
Right.
So when I'm typing in their voice, I can look at them and say, yeah, that's what she's saying.
Yeah.
So to me, that was really fun to finally get a visual of what's been in my head.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun, but yeah, I'm learning because I had attended a Christian writers conference a couple summers ago and met an editor there, and we had kept in touch. And so I wrote this out and I said, hey, I have a very first draft, never written fiction before. Do you offer anything? I don't want you to edit it, but I just want you to look it over. And she goes, well, I'll do a manuscript review for you. And I said, awesome. So she did that and she came back, and I knew that, it coming back, I was not going to be offended by what she told me was wrong, because I knew. And so she sent back, and she was very, very positive. It was very good constructive criticism. And she said, I love the story. It's, you've got a great storyline. Just there's one spot that I got confused because you had already introduced this character, and then like 3 chapters later you reintroduced them. And I'm like, probably.
Yep. Sounds about right.
And said, and this is the one thing she said that she goes, you've got to figure out the point of view that you're using. You're using too many points of view. So pick one, or pick one per chapter. So whatever chapter, use that one point of view, but you don't use too many in one chapter, or, she goes, it does become a little confusing for the reader. That's something I never knew. How would I know? I've never written fiction before. So then she gave me a list of things to work on in the chapters. And I just thought that was so helpful. So that's when I'm like, okay, now I have this little roadmap here that I can just go down the bullet points that she gave me. And it was a long list, and I expected it.
Right.
But now it's just like, when I am in the right mode, the right mindset, I can sit and pick one of those off that list and work on it. So that's how I'm doing it. I've not put anything, no pressure on myself, no deadline, nothing like that for it to be published. It's, to me, this is a journey that I want to enjoy it, because if any stress becomes involved in it, then to me, it's not worth doing.
Yeah,
I want to have
that's
fun.
smart. That's actually really smart, because a lot of people drive themselves insane trying to meeting kind of like self-imposed deadlines and things like that. So yeah, it sounds like you're doing it the right way, where you're actually getting to enjoy the process.
And I want to, because it's my first fiction book.
Yeah.
And I want to see where these characters go naturally.
Yeah.
Not me going, oh, something's got to, I want it to just kind of play out and see. I want to see how it plays out. So yeah, I'm not stressing about it at all. And in the meantime, I'm working on other nonfiction books. So there's nothing to stress about.
Yeah. Now, how many nonfiction books do you have out?
8 or more.
Are they all solo, or are they anthologies?
No. 1, 2. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I met another woman from the UK online, and her and I collaborated and coordinated a 3-book series of anthologies called When Grace Found Me. And that's, we had like 20 women in each book sharing stories of when Grace found them.
Yeah.
And so her and I did those. And then I started coordinating the pet stories, like Paw Prints on the Couch. And then I have Paw Prints on the Kitchen Floor. That one came out last year. And I was going to do a 3rd one, but I didn't get enough co-authors. Okay. A lot of the ones that had agreed like a year before, they were just in the midst of other stuff, which I understood. And I thought, okay, well, then it's just not the time to do this. So next year, I think I'm going to revisit that, because I want a 3rd one to round it out. you know,
Yeah.
3 books in the paw print series, and then I'm done with it. But proceeds from those books go to a local no-kill shelter here where I live in my area. So that was kind of important to me. I don't make a dime off these books,
Right.
you know, and they're, you know, and there's 15 to 20 co-authors. So it's not like big royalties that you share or anything. And all the co-authors understood they would not get a dime for it either.
Right.
Any books that they sold on their own, yes. But any books that sells online, the royalties I provide every quarter to a local, as long as there's sales every quarter to a local, that's the key there, to a local no-kill shelter. So it's kind of nice, you know, and sometimes I have to wait a couple quarters before I can have a decent donation.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to send $10, you know, because sometimes you might only sell $10 worth of books in a month.
Yeah.
Enough for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you know. But to me, regardless of that, I still get a kick out of it every time. Every time, you know, you see the royalty thing coming, I'm like, oh, I got royalties. I just get a big kick out of it. So those ones, and then all just myself. My most recent book is Nuggets of Hope, Cultivate Kindness, and then actually that was in November of last year. So, and then I just had a new ebook come out, 15 Ways Pets Teach Us Kindness.
Oh, I saw that. I was actually looking at your website. I thought that was really cool.
So that's the most recent. That's an ebook form only. I am working on a more like an expanded version of that to be a print copy. And hopefully at the early beginning of next year, that will be out. 15 Ways Pets Teach Us Kindness, paperback version, but it'll be expanded. From what the ebook is. The ebook is a quick read, and that's what I wanted. I wanted it just to be a quick read, and a lot of it comes from Dexter's point of view, the dog's point of view.
That's really cool.
That's what made that one fun. So this one, the paperback version, it's going to have a lot more Digger doggy wisdom in it.
We rescue too, so I really kind of relate to all of that because we currently have 6 dogs that are rescue dogs.
6 dogs. Wow.
They're actually being very quiet too. I have to plan out everything according to I'm like, okay, got to make sure everything's done. So they're quiet. But yes, we always get the ones that get returned a lot, and we're kind of suckers for that. We go get the ones that get taken back multiple times. So yeah.
You know, our Digger, the dog before Dexter, he had been returned twice, and he was just a puppy. He was 13 weeks old.
Wow.
And I'm like, why was this dog returned twice? And they didn't have a story. And I'm thinking, why do people get puppies and then expect them to know what to do?
Right. You don't get a baby and why aren't you walking and driving a car?
Right. Yeah. Why aren't you going to the door and letting me know you need to go outside and pee? Right. I mean, humans drive me crazy sometimes. So that was the only reason I could think that a puppy would be returned twice.
Yeah.
Because he was the absolute, well, they all are. He was the absolute best dog.
Yeah.
Every dog is. But to me, he was the absolute best dog.
Yeah.
And he's that one, I don't know, someone who has pets. There's always that one. I love all of them dearly.
Yes.
I mean, literally would do anything for him and have. But Digger, he was that one.
Yeah.
He's that one that I will always think of until the day I pass.
Yep.
And I pray that he is there. When I cross over, whatever it is I cross over, I hope that Digger's there, along with all my other fur buddies that I had to say goodbye to over the years,
Yeah.
I love to picture that and just think that's probably the best thing ever.
Yeah. No, that's how I feel too. Yeah. And we had a dog. I mean, of course, same thing. We have all of our rescues. We love them all. They all come with their unique things, positive and negative. But yeah, you always have we had one, she passed last year, and she was just that dog that just, even people come over and say, we'd never consider giving her up. And we'd be like, no, she was that dog. So yeah.
Yeah. I would have people say, wow, Digger is the best dog. And I'm like, I know.
Yep. Got lucky.
Yes. So, and people were like, oh, how can you get another dog? And I said, dogs' lives are exactly as long as they're supposed to be. Yeah. And they're with us as long as they're meant to be with us. And as long as we can remind ourselves of that, then we can also remember, all the blessings that came in those 10, 12, 14 years, whatever the case may be. Don't focus on that last day.
Yeah.
Because, that's the day that just crushes you. And it's hard not to.
Yeah.
I was devastated when I said goodbye to Digger. Truly, for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Solid. I couldn't function. It was so bad. And I knew it would be, and my family knew it would be. And they're like, got to take care of Kim.
Yeah.
It was bad. I was a wreck. Because I was focusing, and I'm like, Kim, what are you doing? You had that boy for 14 years, and he was like the most amazing dog ever. Stop focusing on the last day.
Yeah.
We
used to say it too. We'd say, when she goes, it's gonna really suck. And it did. Yeah. And then, but we bring more in. We have two. We've adopted since then, and yeah. So.
Yeah, I told myself I wasn't going to. It's like, I can't do it again. Oh my gosh, that just ripped me apart. And it was about 6 months later, I was driving to work, and I had this little whisper in my head, there's a dog out there that needs you. Oh. And I went, no, there isn't. Literally driving to work going, nope, no, there is not. I can't do it. I'm just now starting to feel better. But the house was too quiet. Yeah. I hated walking in the back door.
Coming home is the worst when you don't have a dog. It is. It's too quiet.
Yeah. And those first 3 weeks, I couldn't go straight home from work. And I had always went straight home from work because I had to get home to let him out. We'd go for a walk.
Right.
That was our thing. As soon as you get home, I was like, change my clothes as fast as possible because he's got his leash in his mouth sitting by the back door. Let's go. But he was a big dog, so he needed that exercise. So we went for an hour walk after work every day, no matter the weather, no matter the time of year. That was our thing. And coming home, I couldn't do it. And I would go to a store, or I'd stop at my mom's, I'd do anything to delay going home. It was so hard. It was so hard. But then, that little whisper came, there's a dog out there that needs you. And I got on the local shelter website, and they are not a no-kill shelter. So that's why I go there. Right. And I got on the website, and there was only one dog. And I went, well, that is really odd. There's never only one. That is really weird. Yeah. And they only had one picture. And I'm like, well, maybe they haven't updated their site or something. So I called them and I said, I'm calling on, they have like a number. Right. So I said, I'm calling on this dog. And I said, is that the only dog you have? And I said, they said, no, we're full house. I said, his is the only picture on your website. And they're like, no, it isn't. I went, yeah, it is. But they insisted that it wasn't, but I only saw the one picture. So I was like, okay.
It's a sign.
Indeed.
Yep.
So I said, well, I'd like to meet that young boy. So I got there, and they took me in this little tiny meet and greet room, and they said, we'll bring him in. And my thought was, he's got to choose me. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to speak, not going to do nothing. He has to choose me because it has to be the right fit. I don't even know if I should be doing this. I was, arguing with myself. Yep. Should I even be here getting another dog? And so I just kind of like sat on, the cement floor, and they brought him in, and he was so skinny and sickly. You could see his ribs. And I was kind of surprised by that because the picture didn't really show that. And he was so skittish. And when they took him off the leash, he kind of came up to me and sniffed, and then like ran back to the door and sat there against the door with his forehead on the door. And I'm like, this dog is shut down. Still didn't move. And I'm just sitting there waiting him out. And it felt like it took forever, but he kept coming back over and sniffing, then skip back and go to one side, go to the other. And I just sat there breathing, and it took a while. I don't even know how long, but it took a while. Yeah. And he kept going side to side, sniffing my hand and then jumping. And then he came to the one side, and he's sitting there sniffing my shoulder. And because I was sitting on the floor, he's sniffing my shoulder and kind of sniffing up, in my ear area and stuff. And then he just sat and leaned his whole body against me and put his chin on my shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
And he had one brown eye and one blue eye. And I looked down and I just see that blue eye. And I went, so you're coming home with me, huh? And I'm like, he chose me. And it's just been fun ever since. And I will never forget how that happened, because I just kept thinking, he's got to choose me. And he was so sickly. And I'm like, Kim, this is going to be a bumpy ride, waiting for him to settle and to get better. And I was taking him out every single hour because he had worms real bad. I mean, he was so sick. And I was taking him out every hour. Every single hour. I had no sleep. Wow. And he couldn't stop going. And so it took a while, but he got better. He started gaining a little bit of weight. And after about 3 months, his personality started coming out, because he wouldn't even get on the couch with me. He wouldn't come up to me and snuggle or anything. He always stayed on the far side of the room.
Yeah.
And he would, just slowly got closer and closer until one time he's at the couch and I'm like, buddy, you can come up on the couch. This is a house that you're allowed on the furniture. And I whispered. I never talked normal to him those first few weeks. I just whispered. I'm like, come on up. Come on up. And he got up on the couch and stayed at the very edge, as far away as he could for several days. And then he started like inching. Yeah. Until one night I'm sitting there and I'm just watching him. I'm pretending like, I don't see him doing what he's doing, but he's like army crawling across the couch. And he got to me and kind of scooted up and put his head on my lap with this huge sigh. And I went, there you are, bud. Yep, we're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. And that was just the coolest moment.
And how many years have you had him?
Almost 6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be 9. Well, I got him in January and they told me that he was probably 3 or 4. And I said, there's no way this dog is 3 or 4. He's still a pup. So I had a DNA test done on him and he was 2. So, ish. 2-ish. So his gotcha day is what I call his birthday. So the end of January, I think he's going to be just about 9-ish. So hitting that the senior dog era.
Yes. Most of ours have hit that now. So
yeah.
Yes, they're stuck in their ways. So yeah. How'd you pick his name?
How did I pick his name? It was either going to be Dugan or Dexter. And when they went back, when I went to pick him up the next night, because they had to chip them and do all kinds of stuff before I could take them home. So, and I had to get stuff. I had to get food, and it had to be new stuff for him. I wasn't going to use Digger stuff. Yeah. So I had to do all. So I came with, when I came the next night to get him and stuff, they said, here's the paperwork and we'll probably be out in about 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, Dugan, Dexter. Well, I don't know. And so I came in and I couldn't make up my mind. And they brought him out and I was like, oh my gosh, Dexter, there you are. And I went, oh, there it is.
There it is.
And that's how I chose his name.
That's awesome. Is he the inspiration behind your paw print series, or both of them, or how'd you kind of
both of them? Digger and Dexter were the inspiration. Digger probably more so. The last 6 years that he was with me online on Facebook, we had like a daily chat. And Digger would share his wisdom with the stupid humans. And we had these conversations and he got quite a following and people absolutely loved and waited for. And if I didn't do it every day, I would get messages saying, where's Digger?
Oh,
What's
wow.
Digger have to say? So I would laugh and think, you guys do know it's me writing that stuff, right? And it was so in tune. And they went on the whole journey of him aging with me, getting a little tired, getting pretty sick, getting even more tired, and saying goodbye. And I shared all that because Digger shared his goodbye. And I had so many people, a lot that I don't even know, were like, you're killing me, we're going to miss Digger. They were all saying how much they love Digger and they're going to miss him. And it was amazing. So those stories, those conversations stuck in my head. I have them all written down. I saved all of them. And everybody's like, you need to turn those conversations into a book.
I was going to say the same thing. So.
You know, and I have them all. And there's been several times over the years, the last 6 or 7 years, that I have sat down to coordinate them, put them together in like a book, you know, so it's an actual book. Mm-hmm. And I still can't do it. And there's a reason for that. I don't know what it is yet, but one day that'll be put together as a book. But I cry too much still because it's all these stories and our adventures. We would walk every day for an hour, and I would come home and write. And it was his morals and lessons that he was teaching me. I live with PTSD, so some of my days were hard. Digger was the only thing that could bring me down, that could calm me, that could stop a panic attack, that could help me breathe. He was it. He was my rock. And boy, did that fur catch tears and hugs and all kinds in his ears. He heard so much stuff from me, and he was so patient. And so on those walks, that's where those stories came from, because a lot of times I'd be talking out loud or I'd be praying, and he would hear that. And so he would share his version from the dog point of view of how he thought. He called me Mom. So how he thought, Mom, maybe you should do this. Or Mom, maybe if we just stop and sniff this for a minute.
Yeah.
And stop thinking about that. You know, so little lessons.
Yeah. I would read that book. So
everybody has said that. I would read that book. And I wrote a long, like 3 weeks after he passed away, I had a very, very, very vivid dream. And for those 3 weeks, I heard him every night. I heard him doing his signature snort as he would lay down. I heard his nails clicking across the floor. And I don't care if people think I'm crazy or not, but I did. I heard him.
No, you're not crazy.
Yeah, I heard it, period. And I'm like, buddy, I know you're sticking around because you're worried about me. Because for those 3 weeks, I was an absolute mess. And he was always there to settle me. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to be okay. You don't need to stick around, buddy. I was saying this every night. You don't, as I'm crying, laying on the couch crying, you don't need to stick around. You don't have to stay. Yeah. But I had a very, very vivid dream it was 3 weeks afterwards. And it was, I was walking a path that was very recognizable to me because it was one that Digger and I walked almost every day. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of miles we walked on this path, and it was in fall, and it was like the leaves are crunching. I could smell the leaves, everything in this. The dream was so vivid. And all of a sudden ahead of me was this big white flash of light. And then this huge black fur ball running like top speed at me. And I realized it was Digger in his prime, like 3-4 years old. And I was like, I dropped to my knees and I'm crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, Digger, I have missed you. Holy cow. Can you stay? Yeah. And he's like, no, Mom, I can't, but I'm in a really special place. And I said, where are you at, bud? And he goes, who did you always talk to when we were on our walks? And I said, well, I was talking to God. I was praying a lot. And he goes, that's who I'm with. And he walks with me every single day. And I went, oh my gosh, that's the best place to be. And he's like, you wouldn't believe it. And I met this person and I met this dog and this, and he's sharing all this stuff and he's super excited and he's running around and jumping like he did when he was younger. And then all of a sudden he stops and he looks back down the path and he's like, turns back and goes, gotta go, Mom. And I went, well, wait a minute. No, please don't go. Right. And he's like, no, gotta go. They're calling me. I gotta go for another walk. It's time to walk again. These walks are the best walks ever, Mom. You have no idea. And I'm like, I bet they are. I bet they're the best walks ever. And he goes, do you remember? I can't remember how it went. It was the most amazing dream I've ever had. So I wrote it all out. I wrote it all out as soon as I woke up, and I shared that on his page. No one was expecting it. And that was the one conversation that like everybody was like, oh my gosh, I'm bawling my head off, but I'm also smiling and laughing. And I'm so thankful because now I know where my dog is. And it was, I mean, the comments that I got. And so I did share his story at the end of one of the Paw Prints books, that dream.
Wow.
So that is shared. That closes out the story, you know, as the final goodbye. But it was an amazing dream. And I was so, when I woke up, I had tears just streaming down my face. I could still smell leaves.
Huh.
It was one of those kind of dreams.
Yeah.
And I just went, okay, thank you. That was probably the best gift. And I haven't heard his nails click or his snort since then.
Oh.
So that was like his way of letting me know I am so good.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm in the best place ever and having the best adventure ever, you know, and he's like, I'll see you again someday, Mom. You know, but I got to go for a walk now. They're waiting on me. They're calling for me. I was like, okay, bud.
Yeah.
And he just turned and ran fast as lightning down that path, and then poof, bright white light, and he was gone. And that's when I woke up.
Wow, that's amazing and awesome.
It was awesome.
It's like a gift, you know, like it's a gift.
That's how I felt when I woke up. I was crying, but it was not sad tears anymore.
Right.
You know, and I just kept saying, thank you, because that was just amazing. And then I'm like, I have to get to my computer right now and write all this down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because I wanted it for myself. I wasn't really planning on sharing it. And then I'm thinking, no, you know, everybody's been asking me, you going to get another dog? That's one thing. I don't know. When you first say goodbye to a dog, please don't go up to that person like the next day and say, you going to get another one? Don't do that.
Yeah. And in general, in grief, that's, yeah. I mean, if somebody's going through something and they have gone through a loss, do not ask how they're going to replace that loss immediately.
Yeah.
It's
no.
just,
Because everybody grieves different.
right.
And some, you know, some grieve. I'm still grieving years later.
Of course. Yeah.
Over this dog. And people are like, he was a dog. And I'm like, yeah, he was a dog. My dog.
Yep. Yeah,
You know?
no, totally.
Yeah. And your opinion doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, we bond to what we bond to, whether it's
Exactly.
humans or animals,
I mean, it could have been a turtle, you know,
Exactly.
could have been anything.
Goldfish, doesn't matter. Yes, if you bond to it, it's your grief.
As
and
a young person growing up, I grew up in, you know, the country, still live in the country. And I grew up saving everything, you know, bringing everything back, you know, baby bunnies, crayfish, you know.
A bird that fell out of the nest.
A bird.
Yes.
And I don't know how many, you know, birds that fly into the window and break their necks. And I go out, I still to this day, they fly into my one window. And I'm like, I got to put something up there so they don't realize it. And I do that. They still don't realize it's not an opening. And so I will run out there and hold that poor little soul until it passes. And I will sit there and cry over it.
Yeah, me too.
And then I take it out and bury it. And one time, was it 2 years ago, a cardinal flew into my window. It was so loud. And I looked out the kitchen window and it's out there on its back, just flapping its wings, but going in circles, not getting up or flipping it. And I'm like, oh, it either broke its neck or it's really knocked itself silly. So I went running out there and I just gently grabbed it, held up to my chest, and it just kind of went, you know, flopped over. And I'm like, oh, please don't be dead. But I could still see it breathing. So I'm like, I think he knocked himself out. So I was literally holding it up to my chest and going back and forth going, it's okay.
Oh, yeah, that's totally me.
Like, you know, holding a baby. It's okay. I'm like, it's okay, little one. I don't know how long I did that for, but it started kind of like, you know, moving its head. And so I'm holding it like this, and it's a full grown cardinal, and it opened up its eyes, and you could tell I'm like, oh, you are whacked out. And he's just kind of, doing this and looking around. And when his head turned to me, he looked at me and went, bah! Screeched so loud. And I went, oh, okay. I think maybe you're okay. So I set him down real gently, and he flew only like a foot off the ground. And it was like he was drunk.
Yeah.
But he was still able to fly. And I'm like, okay, hopefully he'll be okay. But then he fell like out of the air. Boonk. So I go into the yard and I pick him up again. And I'm like, are you okay, buddy? He's like, back down. And then he flew up into a tree and just roosted up on a branch. And I'm like, okay, you're good.
You've done what you can do. Yeah.
I've done my part. But it was so funny. I just got back in the house and I was laughing because when it noticed me, it just like screamed in my face, like, what are you? I'm like, I'm your savior.
Terrifying, but yes.
That's so I'm always, critters, animals. I prefer to be outside with the animals.
That's really cool. Yeah, I would love to, when you finally do get your third, I guess, trilogy of your book, your paw prints. I'd definitely like to hear more about that, because that's really cool. And
I was going to say you should participate.
Well, yes, and I would definitely probably participate, because yes, I'm like that. Yes, animals. My whole life. I mean, I remember like being a child and the kids were like squashing ants and me like screaming at them and making them stop. And so
I was the one that would like grab a pair of tweezers and save something from a spider's nest.
Yes.
And then, as I got older, I'm like, wait a minute, spiders need to eat too.
They need to eat too, right? I did the same thing. Like, now I'm conflicted. I don't know what to
do. That's a good way to say, yeah. I was conflicted child.
That's so funny. Yes, that is totally me. It's totally me still. So, all righty. Okay, so real quick, I want to talk a little bit more about your book. So you have the Paw Print series, you have your other series, the Grace series, and your story that's an individual, correct?
Yeah, Nuggets of Hope.
Nuggets of Hope. And then you have this book that you're working on, but it's just going to happen when it happens, correct?
That is right. For the fiction book, I do have a title, but I'm not going to share it yet.
Totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one is, and it's going to be the title because it's been stuck with me for years. But that one, no idea of when it's going to come out. I have another nonfiction book that I'm working on that deals around PTSD.
Oh, okay.
So that one's a pretty heavy one.
Yeah.
But I think it can be helpful, because it's from the perspective of someone who lives with PTSD. It's not from doctors' perspectives or psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors. It's from the point of view of someone who lives with it. And I've not read a lot of books like that.
No, most of them are from a doctor's point of view.
Yeah. And of course, I'm doing my research and stuff, of course, but it'll mostly be from that one's been a little heavy. So I have to pace myself on that one because I personally live with PTSD. So I pace myself on that one. The 15, I have actually, now that I'm talking out loud, I have more stuff in the works than I realized I did. The ones I'm focusing on, expanding the 15 ways pets teach us kindness. So that's one that will definitely be done. And I have another one. I don't have a title for it or anything, nonfiction. But it's still got, I haven't decided what it is because it started out being nonfiction, but then some of it's kind of turning into fiction. So I'm going, what am I doing with this book? So that one, I really don't know what I'm doing with. It's just one of those things I'm doing. I don't know. There's never a rhyme or reason to how it doesn't seem that way anyway. When I start something, and then all of a sudden it takes a turn and I'm like, well, why'd we go that way?
Yeah. That's totally how my writing goes. So
yeah. So I have a book that has just taken a turn and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. So there's about 3 things I have in the works. But none of it is stress related. And sometimes it all depends on the day. If I can handle something heavy, I'll sit down and work on the heavy book. If I want something a little lighter and I need a little more kindness in my own soul for the day, I'll work a little more on 15 ways pets teach us kindness,
definitely.
Yeah.
And that's smart. Yeah. Because I think a lot of times as writers, we tend to put these like kind of self-imposed, restrictions and timelines on ourselves. And then it takes the fun out of being a writer. Where if you have things you can work on and put aside and pick up, and move, it definitely takes a lot of that like misery out of it. Cause you're like, you know what? I don't want to work on this today. Today, I'm going to do this instead.
And I never thought that I could be that person that has more than one thing going.
Yeah.
I always thought, because when I first started, it was like, no, this is it. This is your focus.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, why am I being so rigid?
Right.
What's the point? I'm not in a rush. I have, I don't have like a big PR person or editor person, hovering over me. We need this book. We need this book.
Right.
I'm doing this all on my own.
Right.
So I just want to enjoy the ride. I want to enjoy the journey and the learning aspects of it and talking to other people, and getting other people's points of view and seeing, hey, is this something, or have you ever thought of this? I don't know. It's just kind of, I'm enjoying it. It's fun, and I've told myself when I started doing this, like all the, 6 years ago, when it's like, all right, I'm just writing and doing a podcast. That's what I'm doing. I told myself if it ever gets to the point where it feels like it's a chore, or in my head, I'm starting to sound like an old boss when I lived in corporate world.
Yes.
Then I'm doing something wrong.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my mindset.
Yeah. And that's brilliant. I mean, I actually took December off because I realized I was pushing so hard, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the month off, and I've just not done anything, and I'm totally happy with it.
I haven't done a whole lot of writing either this month. I told myself the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's close the year out gently.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. I'm like, the year's been hard enough. Let me just take it easy.
Because you know how people say, oh, we got to finish strong.
Right.
And I'm like, why?
Right.
Just take it gentle.
It doesn't
So
change
that's what I'm
anything.
doing. I'm closing out the year gently.
Exactly. I think that's good advice for everybody. Close out the year gently. So
Yeah,
definitely. Do you have any upcoming events or anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
No events or anything. No, I just did a book fair a couple weeks ago, local book fair, which was fun because we don't have a whole lot of those where I'm at. So that was fun to do that. And there was, I think, 17 authors, and there was a craft fair. It was like a big thing. Craft fair going on. It was fun. And it was fun because I got to meet 16 other authors that I otherwise wouldn't have met.
Yeah, definitely.
So from fiction to children's writers to memoirs, and it was fascinating. I spent more money on books from the other authors than books that I sold.
That's what I do. Oh my gosh. That's what I do.
I was
like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm still like, oh, that looks really good.
my goal was selling enough books to pay for my table, because I had to pay a small amount for the table. And I'm like, sell enough books. And so I did. I sold enough books to pay for the table. I'm like, okay, I met my goal. This is fun. This is so fun. And then I went to all the other authors' tables and came back with a stack of books and put them in my bag. I'm like, well, there's my table. And, I spent way more than what the table was, I had to pay for that, but it was fun, and I got to meet these people. Well, you know how it is when you meet other authors and you hear their stories. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys have to come on my podcast and share your story. It's fun. I love that part of it too. Meeting other authors.
Oh yeah.
And seeing, because everybody's brains work so different. And I'm often in awe of other, like, people that write horror or people that write comedy type stuff or romance, whatever it is that they might write. I'm always in awe because my brain doesn't go that way. I'm like more whimsical and wood sprites, and magic. So it's always fun to see how other people's brains work too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, that's anytime I do an event, that's the highlight, is really getting to meet and talk to other authors. And I've learned so much from other authors.
Yes.
Even in the sense of marketing, like I'll be like at an event and I'll watch somebody, I'm like, oh, I like what they're doing there,
Yes. Yep. I'm the same way. Or I'll be like, I really like how you set your table up.
Exactly. I love that.
Really cool.
Or maybe the extra things. Yeah, totally. It's always a learning experience.
Or something as simple as the one author, she just had framed a QR code.
Yes.
And I was like, what's that? And she goes, well, that's the code to just get online and you can buy my books right there. on your phone. And I went, really? I had never thought of doing that.
Yep.
But I'm like, that is brilliant, because I'm not techie. My brain doesn't, I don't think of that stuff first.
Yeah.
So that's how I learn it, by looking at other people, what they're doing. But I was like, that is something I'm going to remember and do next time then.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Remind the listeners where they can buy your books.
They can, all my books are on Amazon, and you can also find them on my website. And there's links on there to that. If you want signed copies, you can reach out to me and I can do that for you as well. A lot of times, randomly throughout the year on Amazon, I will put them on discount for a couple days just because I want to,
Yeah.
So I just do that randomly. And I typically will put like little hints of that in my blog. So my blog is on there. I do a monthly blog, sometimes more than once a month, depends on what's in my mind, and if I want to share it or not. But I've been trying to put like little things in there like, hey, might want to check out Amazon. Just little Easter eggs here and there, So, if you want to check out the blog or subscribe or anything like that, yeah, check out my YouTube channel, which is Let Fear Bounce. So you can watch the podcast on there, so you can see my myself and my guests' faces. If you're not one that, if you're one that likes to view something instead of just listen to like on Spotify or whatever. So yeah, Let Fear Bounce on YouTube. So yeah, do all the things, like, subscribe, share, do all the things, keep all those nuggets of hope out there.
Yeah, definitely. And we really appreciate you coming on and talking tonight. It's such a great conversation. We have a lot in common. I can see. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Again, this is our last show of the season and the year. So I think we're coming back in April. So please, check out all of our episodes and kind of see what we've been up to. And hopefully we'll have some kind of new stuff coming out in the spring. And again, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. And hey, ending your, closing the season out. Yay!
And for everybody, just remember, it's always time for Go Indie Now.